Welcome to another episode of the Wild Strength Podcast. Today, my guest is Madison Horner, and her walk-up song is "I Don't Want to Stop" by Ozzy Osbourne. Wow, I think that's a really good walk-up song, actually. Heck yeah. I always forget about Ozzy Osbourne, and then like he pops up in the media or something, and I'm like, wow, it was always such good music.
Yeah, that's his one song I really like. So,
Yeah, no, that was a good one. We'll see. I will let you introduce yourself, and then yeah, we'll see where the conversation goes.
okay, hello everyone. My name is Madison Horner. I am from Northwestern Montana. 27 years old. Love things anything to do with the outdoors, especially hunting, horseback riding, just anything outside. I'm a happy camper. So,
Yeah, I was telling Madison when we started. She was on the Bowyer podcast, which is another Okayest Hunter podcast. Go check it out. And I was telling her like we're so similar, but we're also so different. And so like I kind of want to touch on a lot of those things. Like you grew up hunting and in the outdoors, and you hunt with your family, and your family hunts. And I only started hunting like 5 years ago as an adult.
yeah.
And so like it's in my family, but both my dad and my grandpa passed when I was really young, so I never got to learn from them. And so I spent like 20 years wondering about hunting, but never actually did it because I didn't really know where to begin. And then kind of just self-taught. Like I don't have any family members that go with me. So I'm curious, as like someone who grew up doing it, like what age did you even get introduced to hunting?
Yeah, we are very different in that aspect. I've always
Yeah.
like, major respect to you because that's a huge like learning curve not to like have
Yeah.
someone walk you through the motions, and like have that like slow introduction to it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but let's see here. Like you said, my family, like very big hunting family. I'm lucky enough to have a dad that really included me from like a very early age.
Mm.
Grandparents that hunt, uncles that hunt, a big mess of cousins that are out like doing
Nice,
everything as
yeah.
well. So basically was just included when I was just like a little kid, just tagging along with my dad and getting to like be a part of some of his hunts and watch him kill some animals and um, just very slow introduction that way, just never even like thought of it as an introduction because it was always there, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Just always a part of family tradition, where there's always like hunting trips that like happen every single year. So it's just something that's been a constant in my life. And then, yeah, my first year that I was legally able to hunt, of course, then I was able to partake myself and had my dad by my side to walk me through it and stuff. And I think even like a lot of people have that, but maybe like the passion doesn't quite take off and stuff. But
hmm
it definitely did and kind of grew from there. And as I became a little more independent, I started to find things that maybe my dad wasn't into as much that like I really enjoyed doing and stuff. And it just kind of grew from there. So
Do you have any siblings by chance?
I do. I have an older brother and a younger
Okay.
sister. Hmm.
Nice. Okay. And do they all hunt as well?
My older brother does, and
Yep.
my younger sister does, but like her introduction was like a little different than mine, I would say.
hmm
She's 4 years younger than me,
Okay.
and her first hunt when she was first legally allowed to hunt and actually shoot something for herself. Nothing bad happened, but maybe wasn't like the cleanest kill, like required a follow up shot sort of thing. And her personality for that was she needed a break after that. She wasn't super into it. So, she kind of went through high school and wasn't super into it, but like tagged
Okay.
along and stuff. And in the last, 2, 3 years, she's really been getting into it for herself and showing a little more interest. So, yes, but I feel like all of us have been a little different in the level and the interest and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I think you even mentioned on the podcast that I was listening to that the first shot you took was maybe not a good one, but luckily the animal went down anyways.
yeah, I think it's just totally like a personality thing of like what you can handle and your thresholds and
Mhm.
stuff. But yeah, my first shot on an animal ever, I was shooting the compound my first year and hunting with my dad, and my dad just assumed I like knew enough to wait for a good shot where this little yearling doe would clear some like branches and stuff. And no, I shot through like a whole mess of branches, and the arrow ping ponged off of probably like 10 branches and sliced it through the jugular, which very quick kill, thankfully, but not how it's supposed to go, right? But
Right.
no, but that's how you learn, I suppose. So
Yeah. I mean, that's the best outcome for that scenario. It couldn't have gone or could have ended better with what happened.
I know it still cracks my dad up to this day that it all worked out that way, and I didn't know any better. I was happy with it. So
So you started at what age in Montana does the youth season start? Can you start
well,
hunting as a youth?
when I was younger, it started when we were around the age of 12, and
Okay.
since then they can do like an apprenticeship program now where you can start at 10, but they didn't have that when I was at that age. So I was 12 years old when I first started hunting for myself.
Okay. And did you
hmm
start with a bow at 12 years old?
Yes, I did. So I
Nice.
started with compound and rifle hunting my first year, and then after that, I was had a lot of fall sports and stuff throughout middle school and high school. So hunting wasn't always like the first priority, but so I didn't do a ton of bow hunting just because of how soccer seasons kind of lined up. But
Mhm.
and then later on, after my first year bow hunting, I got more into traditional archery, which my family's always been into, but I started to develop the time to kind of focus on that a little bit more. So
Yeah, so that was kind of like one thing where we're similar. I'm very much big into bow hunting, but I've only ever, I mean, I've shot a recurve before, but it was because I injured my shoulder and I couldn't draw back the compound bow that I have. And so instead of getting a lighter weight compound bow, I just picked up a recurve and kind of worked my way back up, which it's a
yeah,
different draw cycle for sure, but still, I was still able to shoot. And then I quickly realized how challenging it is to
yeah,
shoot a recurve.
yeah. I feel like both. I'm not as familiar with compounds because I only had one for a year, so
Yeah.
I think both of them definitely like have their like challenges and stuff
Mhm.
like that are unique to themselves. But yeah, it is. I'm fairly used to it, but it has its own challenges and stuff, and it's instinctive. But it is interesting, like how much comes naturally, and like when
Mhm.
you really just give it a try and like focus on that and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I never even thought about that. I guess too, I wonder if someone like you, who's mostly shot a trad bow or a recurve, um, if you were to pick up a compound bow, like how decent of a shot you would be with a compound bow. Because I would think it would transfer well, but maybe not.
yeah, but like the form and stuff is like so different, which
It
obviously
is, yeah.
is too hard to like switch up. But I think muscle memory is a big thing. I think what would be really hard for me if I tried to like switch over to a compound is just the extra layers of like gear that you need for that. Like range finding and stuff. Like and I'm sure everyone has their own system and stuff. And my view of it, it's very naive. But like having an animal come in and like having that extra like layer of like getting a range on them and like knowing what pin to use and not messing up that that
Mm,
all that extra layers like add like extra room to mess up and stuff. For me, that would be super
mhm.
stressful and hard to like get the hang of. So yeah,
That makes sense. So I'm curious, I guess one question would be, what's the furthest that you would shoot at a critter?
yeah. I think 20 yards would be my max, and like even like 20 yards when you really think about it, without like sights and stuff, that's like pretty far away.
Mm-hmm.
I think like any like around the 15-yard range is definitely a lot more ideal, but I feel pretty comfortable out to 20 yards, and of course every situation is a little different, like depending on how alert the animal is and how good of a shot you think you have and how much time you have. So yeah, I think I've made a couple shots at like 20 yards, and I feel pretty comfortable at that. So yeah,
I guess I didn't even think about that because I'm sitting here like, why don't you have a rangefinder? But I guess you're not shooting past 20, so 20 is pretty easy to know. Like, okay, that animal's at 20 or it's not.
yeah, and it's kind of just like I don't like you don't you're just kind of guessing. Like for me, I'm just guessing ranges and stuff because I don't rely on them for any sort of like aiming process. So it's just kind of like what feels good and like what you can do and what you're capable
Mm-hmm.
of. But yeah, for me, with traditional archery, there's kind of like two different routes it seems like people go. there's what they call like instinctive shooters, which
Hmm.
you're not using really any sort of method to aim other than like your instincts. You're just picking a spot and like having good form and stuff. And then some people, I don't do this, but they you can do gap shooting too. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's
Hmm.
kind of just using spots of your arrows, lining up with different gaps at different like yardages. But for that case, you would need to know like ranges and stuff to be accurate.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you do a lot of when you're hunting with a bow, more spot and stock, or I know you mentioned in the conversation that I listened to, you sat tree stands before. Do you have a preference on either way?
I love I love tree stand hunting, and that's what I would say I like majority of like my like successful hunts stem from.
Hmm.
Um, I think spot and stock is super cool, and I've had some success with it. But I think it's a lot more harder, so sometimes it's a little more frustrating. So it's hard to admit that you like it because it is
Yeah.
really hard. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a preference, but I just with the type of hunting I do and like the areas I end up hunting, it seems like more tree stand hunting than anything. But yeah, little spot and stock every now and then. But yeah, and where we're from here in northwestern Montana, it's really thick. It's like a lot of
Mm.
trees, just really thick wooded areas. So sometimes tree stand hunting's more effective in that regard. But
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it's funny too. I think so many people think of and and even for me, I'm from Texas and then came out to Colorado for hunting. So I hunted in Texas for like one or two seasons before I came out here. And was very familiar with like sitting a blind or sitting a stand or whatever. And like my idea of Western hunting was the spot and stalk, or like you're in the timber, you're still hunting, you're like hoping that you just walk up on a deer, an elk, or whatever tag that you have in your pocket. And the more I think about it and the more conversations I hear and the more people I talk to, I'm like, tree stand hunting out west is like,
a lot of people do it.
it's not, I'm not going to say easy, right? Like you obviously still have to know where they're coming and where they're going and where they're living and all of that stuff. But like, I just feel like such an underrated way to hunt out here. And granted, I get it. Some people don't want to sit a tree stand and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I do think if you learn the skills of it and you do it the right way, like it's just another tool to have in the toolbox, right?
And I'm sure it's so you live in Colorado right now then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably fairly similar to Montana too. Like it totally depends on what season you're in too, because there's
Mm.
like in the West, we have so much fluctuations where it's like this time of the year I'm hunting this time of the year I'm hunting this. So then like when it comes to rifle hunting, because I rifle hunt too, all I don't tree stand hunt for rifle hunting. It's all hiking around in the mountains and stuff and finding stuff. So yeah.
Do you have a preference, or is it, hey, I didn't fill my archery tag this year, so I'm gonna rifle hunt kind of thing?
I really don't have a preference. I because every like month of hunting season is just so different, and there's like different parts that I like love equally and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I love bow hunting in the early season and stuff for elk and deer in September and October, and then love bow hunting later on in November, like hunting whitetails in the rut and stuff. But I love hunting mule deer with the rifle in November, specifically in the rut. So I would have a hard time choosing just because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to I don't know, just with every season, there's something to look forward to and stuff. So, and in Montana, like there's you similar to Colorado, probably you can like do it all. You can go hike around and rifle hunt. You can go, bow hunt a river bottom. Like you can go
Mm-hmm.
more into like the plains and hunt like antelope and stuff. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to like focus on like one like aspect of hunting and stuff. Cause like every hunting season, I want to do a little bit of everything. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool. In Montana, I know in Wyoming it's this way. If you have an archery tag and you don't fill it, does it turn into a rifle tag? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Is it
Yep.
that way there?
Yep. So in Montana, we have general deer and elk
Mm,
tags
okay, yep.
where I can bow hunt during the bow hunting season, and then that rolls over into rifle season, and I can
Nice.
rifle hunt and stuff. And obviously, there's special draw tags where there's more restrictions and stuff, but for the general stuff, yeah, for sure.
I think that's huge because, yeah, Wyoming does the same thing. Colorado doesn't do that. You either have an archery tag or a rifle tag. And
So do you
I
have to pick then?
Yeah, you do, which is tough because I don't have a preference either, right? I do like bow hunting because so in Colorado, September is archery season, and then we have four rifle seasons that are all about a week long. So you have like first rifle, second rifle, third rifle, and so on. And obviously, if you have a rifle tag, you can hunt down, so you can hunt it with a bow, but you can't do obviously the other way around. You can't hunt with a rifle on an archery tag. Um, but it's like, man, I just wish that, and that was a big reason I think I wanted initially so badly to just be a bow hunter. And then when I moved to Colorado, I realized if that's the case, I get 1 month a year to hunt. And that sounds terrible to me. So if that's going to be my only option, then I've got to find other ways to put meat in the freezer. And that was a big reason I got into hunting anyways, was to put meat in the freezer. So I was like, all right, I can't just be a bow hunter. I've got to pick up a rifle. And since like I've hunted multiple different states now too, like that's another way to get different times of the year in, because I know different states archery season runs. I know Montana has a late archery season. I believe maybe Wyoming does too. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really cool advantage though that the state has, that it does kind of transfer over and you can hunt that tag for a while.
Yeah. No, Montana's definitely like kind of call it like an opportunity state, where it's like
Mhm.
you have so much opportunity, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. Sometimes it needs to be a little more reined in as far as season structure and tags and whatnot. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we can start hunting, really bow hunting in like August for antelope if you have the right tag, and hunt all
Nice.
the way through November rifle hunting. And then we also have like
Nice.
a muzzleloader season now, and it's like a
Mhm.
week long in December. So you can hunt for quite a while in Montana. So, which is like I said, can be a good or bad thing. So
Yeah, that's true. And I think it just depends how you look at it, and I'm sure it's that way for a reason in different states. Here for I love hunting antelope. Actually, last year was my first year hunting them and I wasn't successful, but I was hunting with my bow. And I just knew if I was able to hunt these with a rifle, it would be such an easy hunt because they are everywhere. And to get 300 yards from an antelope is the easy part. It is getting closer than 300 yards before they run away. That's the hard part. So I think that's interesting that, yeah, you can, especially with an antelope tag, because the hunt is so vastly different.
yeah,
And I guess with any critter too, between archery and rifle season.
yeah. So when you were hunting antelope, were you spot and stalk, or did you try any like decoying or anything like that?
Yeah, I just did spot and stock. I had a cow decoy because where I hunt them, there are cows everywhere. I thought about setting water. I've heard quite a few people say, like especially out here where they live out east, where it's really dry and like kind of deserty, to sit water. And I was like, I just don't want to sit. Those days are long. It's hot. It's 100 degrees, and I'm like,
Like depending on how you sit, but it seems like a lot of times like it's a blind or whatever on water, which is
yeah.
hot. That sucks to be sitting in a blind.
Yeah. And I thought about this year, like I considered putting up cameras on water just to like maybe if I know that they're there, then for sure it'd be worth sitting if I know that they're there versus sitting and not knowing if anything's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I did all spot and stock and it was so much fun. Like I would kind of say, and for anyone who's listening, I think antelope is a really good starter hunt, whether it's bow or rifle, because if you're somewhere where antelope are, you're guaranteed that there's plenty there, and
I
you'll get multiple opportunities.
Well, it's like just like you said, the opportunity side of it. Like even if you're bow hunting, like you will get stalks in. Like
Hmm.
they'll probably be failed. Majority of them are
Yeah.
not going to turn out and stuff, but like it's going to be like entertaining. You're going to have action and stuff
Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, I rifle hunt antelope quite a bit, and like you said, it's sometimes not the biggest challenge. Usually, like everyone's tagged out day one or two, but
Yeah.
I bow hunted antelope like twice. My first year hunting, I actually missed one with the compound sitting in a blind
Hmm.
by a water hole. But again, I was 12, didn't really know a whole heck of a lot. My dad would
Hmm.
just drop me off in the blind and then come get me at dark. So
Nice.
this time I wasn't even like paying attention and falling
Yeah.
asleep and not even really looking out the window probably. But yeah, and then 2 years ago, me and my dad went antelope hunting in September. I don't know the time of the year you were bow hunting, but it was like middle of September when antelope were rutting and stuff. So we were trying decoying, which if you haven't done that yet, that was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with you being a compound shooter and maybe being like shooting a little farther in range. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we had it was seemed easy is not the word, not the right word, but it seemed easier to get them closer to like a 50-yard range and stuff. Like we
Mm-hmm.
had quite a bit of like ones coming to like that range, but then closing the gap from there was like pretty difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty entertaining. You know, they get really curious with those decoys, and a lot of them would come right in. So
I've heard that, like that they're super. I guess there was one day I hunt by myself a lot, but there was one day one of my buddies came out and he had an antelope like fan decoy,
mm-hmm.
and so he was walking in front of me and I was behind him, and exactly that we kind of stopped and this buck was curious and he walked into me. He came to 80 yards, which I can shoot, but there was also like a 30-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah,
And so I was like, I don't want to shoot that far in that like strong of a wind, but he stood broadside staring at this decoy for a solid 5 minutes. And I'm like, if this wind would just stop, that would be great.
yeah. And we were having luck, even just like a lot of times they get curious and come in, but like just like feeding groups or bedded groups were just inching our way with those. And
Mm-hmm.
we're able to get fairly close, but not close enough. But yeah,
Did your dad hunt with a traditional bow as well?
yes.
Nice.
So
Heck yeah.
pretty much my whole family does
Yeah.
because my uncle is a bowyer.
Okay.
He makes Schaefer silver tip bows.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of just like a family thing. My grandparents, cousins, uncles, dad, brother, everyone. So yeah, big part of our family. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I always like I kept listening to you talk about family stuff on the other podcast that I was listening to, and I'm like, I can't imagine like for reference, most of people in my family are not super outdoorsy. So I just think about like if my family were to be doing this, like how much they would like or not like it because they don't like crazy weather, whether it's snowing or if it's too hot or too windy. And I'm just like the black sheep of the family. But I think that's so cool that that's something that you guys do. And you mentioned also you're not married, your husband is a guide in Alaska. Is that something that you've gone up to do as well?
yes, I've gotten to go up to Alaska with him once before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there right now, he left this last Saturday and he'll be gone
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
doing sheep and moose season. But let's see here, 3 summers ago, 2 summers ago, I can't remember. I got to fly up in the springtime with him. He was just getting done guiding brown bear hunts um, in the springtime. That's what he does, brown bear hunts. And I was able to fly up and meet him, and we got flown out to do a little black bear hunting. And that's actually where we got engaged. So that was a super fun trip.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, got engaged, shot a black bear, had a lot of action. Just being in Alaska for the first time was awesome. Um,
Yeah.
Flying like in a cub out to where our camp was and getting like dropped off. That was a super cool experience.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous to fly at first, but the outfitter that he works for is also the pilot, and he's a great pilot, and I felt very
Nice.
comfortable with him. But no, it was a very very good all around experience, and I really want to go back as soon as I can. So,
Nice. Yeah. Have you hunted anywhere else other than Montana, Alaska?
so Alaska, I've hunted in Hawaii a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I've shot there though is a pig. Been trying to hunt axis deer, but they kind of kick your butt on public land, so in
Yeah.
at least. But and then let's see here, Idaho. I hunt Idaho fairly often,
Okay.
and I'll actually be hunting Colorado this fall. Haven't hunted there before, but
Nice.
we drew mule deer tag, so that'll be my first
Nice.
time there. So
Is that just you? Did just you drew a tag, or did anyone else in your family draw one?
me, my dad, my husband, and my father-in-law all have tag.
Nice.
We'll get to go down together. So yeah.
Heck yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, that's one thing. I drew an archery mule deer tag here in Colorado, but they're not like there's no general or over the counter mule deer hunting here. So even as a resident, you have to draw the tag, which there's some units, so it's relatively easy to draw every year. But I haven't gotten the opportunity to hunt them in Colorado yet because you do have to draw it. And I only moved out here, this will be my third season hunting out here. So I was like, man, I'm finally gonna just like use the point or two that I have and see. So it'll be my first time hunting mule deer. I've hunted them in Arizona, but never in Colorado. So we'll see how it
awesome.
goes.
And that's archery, you said?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The rifle tags here are, I don't want to say like hard to get, but they obviously take more points because it's I also don't want to say an easier hunt because it's not necessarily easier. But back to the opportunities, like you end up with more opportunities. So, like with antelope, I would love to hunt rifle antelope here, but I think the as far as draw units go for rifle, you have to have at least like 6 or 7 points.
Gotcha.
And then yeah, some of the like elk units and deer units for rifle it just takes a couple years at least to draw a decent one. That so that's where it's nice for the general tags in Montana that you could kind of do that every year if you want
For
to.
sure. Yeah, it's like something you can kind of count on and always plan on and always have and stuff. So, yeah, no, I'll be really excited to go explore around in Colorado and stuff. My couple years ago, my brother and dad and some other family um, hunted in Colorado. They had muzzleloader mule deer tags,
Mm.
and my brother got like altitude sickness, like really really bad, and ended up being like hospitalized. So he's sitting this one out because he's yeah, Colorado kind of kicked his butt. So literally,
I didn't realize until who was who oh I had a guy on, his name's Brett. He works with Montana Knife Company and he's a big bear hunting guy. And I didn't realize until talking to him that Montana doesn't go up that high in elevation for most of it.
no,
Um,
like in the general area here, like within like an hour radius of me, like probably like our tallest peak is like maybe like a little bit over like 9,000. So yeah,
wow.
yep, not anything comparable to where you're at.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, the unit that I drew in, I don't think there's a spot in the unit that's under 10,000 feet,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
scary when you're not used to it, especially when it's like they say you want to like camp as low as you can and stuff, but like you're not used to it and stuff, and you don't like have a whole lot of options for like lower camping like elevations and stuff, and yeah, that can get pretty serious pretty quick. So
Especially if you're camping lower to stay at lower elevations, but depending what time of year you're there, if the animals are high, you're still exhausting yourself trying to get up pretty high if you're camping lower. So
mhm.
that's intense. When you so you said you went to Hawaii, what island did you go to?
So most of the hunting, I've been to quite a bit of them, but most of the hunting I've done is on Maui,
Hmm.
um, which is really fun because I love Hawaii, but like I can only sit on the beach for so many days before like I kind of want to go try something else, and it's great to
Yep.
go hunt and then come back and like end the day
Yeah.
on the beach. But yeah, hunting Hawaii is pretty interesting because I was doing all this research trying to get my ducks in a row for what I need for licenses and tags and stuff, and it's just like intimidating how lax they are on stuff. Like,
Yeah.
are you sure I can do this? Like, you sure I don't need a tag? Like, I just felt like I was doing something wrong because, like, you get
Yeah.
your I was there, you have to buy your just like a hunting license, and
Hmm.
then like there's no tags after that. Axis deer, you can shoot as many as you want. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter. I think goats, there's maybe like a limit of like I can't remember, but like maybe like two a day or something like that for the area we were at. And then pigs, there's like a season where you could only hunt them during this window of time. But it just felt funny, like not having to like get tags or being able to shoot like multiples and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. And I really wanted to hunt, get an axis deer because I mean, with you being from Texas, like all I've heard about is like how great they are to eat and stuff. And
Hmm.
for me, I love the eating part and like being able to bring meat home and all that good stuff. So really wanted to shoot an axis deer, but on Maui they have so many of them, but a lot of them are a little lower, it seems, from my observation, like more on like the grassy stuff, like a lot of like farmland and stuff where it's private. Um, and I think people that do like allow hunting have like definitely capitalized off that. And like if you want to go hunt, you have to pay pretty big money even just for access, which
Yeah.
do. So I was just going to public hunting units, which are a little higher elevation, kind of. I I think it's actually like a big crater or old volcano.
Okay. Yeah.
And my first year there hunting, I saw some axis deer, but I was bow hunting and could not get close whatsoever, and didn't know a lot
Mhm.
about them, So I was trying hard for that, and then I was getting distracted, chasing goats and pigs all around, which is funny because it feels like you're just hunting like farm animals, and
Yeah.
it's different to me. So, but I did end up shooting a pig that trip, so
Nice.
that was a lot of fun. But
Yeah, yeah, I hunted I've been to multiple islands on Hawaii, but I've only hunted Molokai. And I'm the same, like I cannot sit on the beach forever. Like give me a day on the beach and then I'm ready to just go explore and go do something else. Um, but yeah, it's crazy that there are deer everywhere and even hunting them with a bow. So I got one, but the first day I was there, I hunted with a rifle and then I hunted with a bow the rest of the time. And I got one with a rifle and even like, just like you said, getting close enough to get a good shot. There's so many of them, but they're so skittish because there
yeah,
are so many of them.
yeah, no, they're super hard animals to hunt. And someone told me that like I think they're from India is where they're like originally from. So like
Hmm.
they're natural predators like a tiger, which is why they're so like wired and stuff. Um, but yeah, really, really cool animals. Like every time I go there, I figure it out a little more. So hoping to go back eventually and maybe bring a rifle this time for an axis deer because, like I said, I just love to like have the meat and try them. Their hides
Hmm.
are like absolutely beautiful, so that would be really cool as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I must say, I think, and I get so much stuff because I do a lot of archery stuff. Like I go and do like the total archery challenges every year and all these archery events, and I shoot indoor and all this stuff. And I think people will ask like if I shoot something with a rifle, they will say like I'm cheating or whatever, and I'm like, no, it's not that serious. It's really not. Like I think at the end of the day, and I think you and me, Matthew, were talking about this too. Is like at the end of the day, I'm an opportunist and I'm a hunter, and it doesn't really matter how I get it done. I just would like meat in the freezer, and if it comes with a cool mount, even better. But it's okay if it doesn't. Also,
Yeah, no, for me, I just love making like great memories and stuff, and it's
hmm.
like some of the hardest hunts I've ever been on have been like rifle hunts. Like
Yeah, I bet.
my deer last year, like me and my husband were like, we got home at like 1 in the morning, and we were both puking on our way out, like just from exhaustion and stuff.
Oh
So
no.
it's just totally like what you make of it, and I don't know. Like I said, rifle hunting can be super hard and challenging too, and for me, it's like I just like being with the people I want to hunt with and in the areas I want to hunt with, and getting an animal is just like a cherry on top. So
Have you, your experience may be different because you've done it all of your life, but being a woman in hunting, do you feel like you experience any challenges at all? Or are you just like, this is kind of always what I've done?
I would say for the most part, it's kind of like always what I've done, and like
Hmm.
people surrounding me like know who I am and know what I'm capable of and stuff. So,
Hmm.
um, but I would say every once in a while, like meeting new people that don't really know me, I think it's pretty easy to like make assumptions, just because you're a girl, but maybe you're not doing it all yourself, or you don't know certain things, or like
Hmm.
somebody's doing like a lot of the tasks for me instead, stuff like that. I see like a little bit, but it's only with people like you don't really know. Um, but then I think like that's just like in real life, but then like in like social media and stuff, like I think that has its own like sets of challenges because
Hmm.
um, it's hard to like tell on social media who is maybe like doing it because they really like love it and like enjoy it and stuff. And like
Right.
unfortunately, there's a lot of girls who give women like a bad rap on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. I would say. Um, so sometimes I think some of those assumptions come from that negative side instead of
Mm.
like, anything that like I'm doing. But if that makes sense, which I'm sure like
Yeah,
some
no, that
too. So
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. It's funny you say that. I actually had this girl reach out to me last week. And I don't know if maybe she was trying to be like a hunting influencer or whatever at one point, but she had completely deleted like social media for a little over a year. And then got back on it and she was like, "Hey, totally random. I found your page and like it's just so refreshing to see like a woman who's doing the stuff and who's not just like doing it to look." Because that's something like when I started my podcast, for me, it was like selfishly, I could have people on that knew way more than I did, and I could learn from them that way. And I can talk to a wall. So it was like, whatever, I'll just start a podcast and like learn from people that way. And it was like, if people listen to it, cool. If they don't listen to it, like, also cool. That it's not like a big deal to me. I never intended for it to be like a money maker or to get really big or anything like that. Like, it's just fun for me. Um, and so, but I found that after I started one, I would kind of get the accusations of like, "Oh, you're a woman who has a podcast in the hunting industry. Like, you're basically doing it for reasons other than you actually like to hunt. Like, you're just trying to get followers, you're trying to get people to like you or whatever." And I'm like, damned if I do, damned if I don't, right? But it was, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. It's just that part's frustrating.
yeah, no, that's so stupid and stuff. And I don't know. For me, just I feel like I know enough about hunting and know enough of like the reasons why I do it that for me it's pretty easy to look at someone's Instagram page and like be like, okay, like this girl's similar to me. This girl loves it. This girl's out there doing it just with or without social media should be doing it and stuff. And then
Yeah.
there's the ones that are a little easier to pick out with the opposite reasons and stuff, I would say. But yeah, no, it is interesting to get like criticized when it's like you're not doing anything bad, you're not doing anything you shouldn't be, you're just doing stuff because you like it. So yeah, but you're always going to get criticism, so it is what it is.
Oh,
But
for sure. Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. Do you have a lot of, I think where I struggle is finding a lot of like lady friends who hunt because for the reasons you just explained, like I'll meet someone and they want to do it because they're like, "Oh, like guys are going to like me if I do this." And I'm like, that's not comfortable to me. So I'm curious if just, even just like where you live, like, did you grow up with other women who hunted or other friends who hunted, or have you made some of those if you've gotten older?
I would say I haven't really made a whole lot of friends that are girls that hunt, like just in my life. But I I feel like I'm already surrounded with like a fair bit of girls that
Hmm.
hunt. Like I have um, a cousin that's super into hunting. She's 4 years younger than me and just as into it as I am and stuff. So it's like, although she's my cousin, she's always been my friend, of course, too.
Hmm.
And then one of my very best friends, she comes from a big hunting family, didn't hunt a whole heck of a lot like in high school or growing up, but
Hmm.
once she was kind of done with sports and stuff, like she focused a little more on hunting and her and her husband own an outfitting business. So I kind
Cool.
of have her and stuff too. So it is really, really nice to have like a group of girls, which part of them are family, and then like my friend, where we can go out and do like a hunting trip or a backpacking trip or even just like a horse trip, through like the
Yeah.
wilderness areas around here and stuff. Just having capable girls around me, I definitely do have that.
Mhm.
Um, but on that note, I don't feel like I meet a whole lot of people who have like
Mhm.
the same interest level.
Yeah,
You
for sure.
know, I meet a lot of girls who like semi interested and maybe like go on a couple hunts a year and stuff, but like
Mhm.
um, I haven't met a whole heck of a lot of people um, that kind of like match the same level of passion that I would say I have.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like I see like a couple people out there on like social media where it's easier to like find like minded people. So I see a little
Mhm.
more of that in people who are like minded like that on social media and stuff. But I would say it is a little harder to come across versus like, guys and stuff for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, like, that's why I think I mentioned I do a lot of like solo hunting and hunting by myself because I understand that if I just go asking men to go with me, what that could look like. And of course, and a lot of my buddies, like they're married men, so I'm not going to ask a married man to go with me. Like that looks terrible. Or kind of like you said, I have like maybe girlfriends that are interested, but they're like, nah, I don't know if I want to like take a week off of work to do that and all this stuff. So it's like I'm gonna find a way to get it done, and if I have to go by myself, that's totally okay. But yeah, it's definitely hard. I find exactly what you said. Like you kind of nailed it with that one to find ladies who are equally as passionate about it. I think most of the girls I meet, they kind of like dipping their toes in and experiencing like a weekend trip, which is that's totally fine too, right? Like there's
Yeah,
absolutely nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I definitely struggle to find women who are like about it and like want to go
yeah,
more regularly, which is to each
yeah.
their own, I guess.
It's fairly easy for me like to like convince some friends to like go on a day hunt here and there. But like you said, like
Mhm, yeah,
a friend who like you want to go spend 4 nights and like backpack into like grizzly bear country and like have type 2 fun where it's like you're miserable the
yeah,
whole time, but we'll look back on it and it'll be fun. So
heck yeah.
it is hard to find people like that. And I think the fact that like you can go out by yourself and stuff, that's super cool. And I think that's the most important thing is like if you really want to go do something, like you're going to make it happen whether or not you have company. And sometimes that's getting out of your comfort zone and being by
Mhm,
yourself. And I think that's a good thing. It's really important to get out of your comfort zone and, spend time with yourself and do that and stuff. And I think it's a boost to your confidence as well. And yeah, it's something I've had to be better about the last 4 or 5 years because
mhm,
I've always had family and that are big hunters and stuff. So I never, there never seems to be a shortage of people who want to go with me. But with my husband being gone part of the hunting season and stuff, it's definitely like, do you sit at home and like be by yourself like here, or
yeah.
do you like go out and like try to get it done and make the most of your time like when you're apart from each other? So definitely had to like get better about that. So
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And I think, yeah, even like whether you are, and for anyone who's listening, like whether you're alone or married or in some sort of relationship, I do think there's value in still being able to go and do things on your own. And kind of like you said, yes, it's ideal to like have your partner there with you, but I'd imagine that in the times that you do kind of like you mentioned, get uncomfortable and get out by yourself, you learn a lot about yourself.
for sure.
So especially when you're in the woods and you're like you have grizzly bears, or we don't have grizzlies in Colorado. I think that would add a whole other level of like, okay, I'm a little scared.
Yeah, no, it definitely does the whole grizzly bear thing because it's like it is so much nicer to have like two people there, just like as like a safety precaution, like
Mhm.
like run-ins with bears and stuff. And like for the most part in the daylight, I feel pretty confident. And it's like when you're walking back in the dark by yourself that you're really like starting to get in your head about different things. So
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
I'd say for me, you mentioned like the daylight and the dark is when I'm like the most scared by myself
Yeah,
because I mean, not that
me.
anything changes in the environment that I'm in, but the second I'm like getting out, leaving camp and the sun is not up yet, or I'm like walking back and the sun is down, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen to me today.
No, it's like I think it's just our biology. That's like
Yeah, for sure.
our lizard brain knows that that's when we're going to get preyed on. So
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned kind of changing the subject a little bit that you guys have horses and you'll go like backpacking and on horses and stuff like that. That is something I have never done before, but does that, as far as opportunity goes for hunting with the traditional bow, do you think that it gives you a little bit more opportunity to go deeper in when you're on horseback, or is that just preference you prefer to do it that way?
I would say both. Definitely a lot of it's preference. Like we just love that side of hunting, and if
Mhm.
we own horses, we want to use them. Is our big thing. But yeah, it definitely gives you like an advantage and stuff to be able to like go farther and pack camps in and stuff. And especially I would say like when the weather's still fairly warmer and stuff closer to like September, like there's some places where if you're hunting just with the backpack and hiking, like you physically may not be able to like get an elk out faster than like when the meat could spoil. So like having horses to be able to load up like a whole elk and come out in like one trip is like a huge advantage and opens the doors
Hmm.
on where you can go and how far you can go. So I'd definitely say it's both for sure.
Do you and have you had horses all of your life?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Do you ride like competitively or anything outside of that or
Nope, nope. We've
no?
always just had horses. For us, like what we use them for mainly is shed hunting. We do a lot of shed hunting in the springtime.
Okay.
In the summertime, we've got we do like a bunch of summer riding, and we try to do like pack trip and stuff where we take like 4 days to a week, and we've got the Bob Marshall Wilderness, which is about like I can hook up a trailer and be there in about 2 hours, pretty easy, just from my house. So um, we do a lot of like that sort of stuff, um, and then hunting in the fall. So
Nice. That's super convenient. Do you work in like hunting or outdoors or anything like that?
no, I wish I did. I used to work for an outfitter when I was kind of like doing seasonal work when I was still in college and stuff,
Hmm.
and that was my favorite job and type of work ever because it's like you can get paid to ride a horse and then raft down a river and stuff. So
Uh,
that's fantastic. But no, I've got a just a normal job at the moment. So, but we'll see.
yeah, that makes two of us. But I think it's cool too. Like, I think another thing that I get, and I'd be curious to ask you too, from whether it's women or men, like, oh my gosh, like, how do you still get to hunt if you don't? Because I don't, it's not my job. I don't get paid to do it. I just do it because I like to do it. It's fun. But I think me, and I don't know exactly what you do, and you don't have to say, but I think it's I've been in the same like career field for 8 years now, but I found a way to where I'm remote. I can work from anywhere. My hours can be flexible. I can kind of do all these different things. And so I did that. Do I love working remote? No, not really. I'm a people person. I like to be around people, but it gives me the flexibility to do the things that I really want to do, which it took me into my late 20s to figure out that life was more important than work. Like I definitely was a career driven person and was like dead set on just like climbing a ladder, right? But I think I like had an experience in a moment when I was like, I don't know, 27, 28, and I was like, I just want to live my life now. So, like, let me find a job that suits that. So, I'm curious. With it sounds like you get out quite a bit, and maybe like more of it was like when you were in college and stuff like that. But was that something that was in the back of your mind when you were looking for jobs? Like, what kind of flexibility is this going to give
Yes,
me?
yes, I can definitely relate to everything you said there because I like totally have the personality where it's like all I care about is to make enough money and have enough time to support the lifestyle I want outside of work. I'm like, I'll do anything for 40 hours a week as long as I can like have that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so my job right now, I really like my job, but I work for our electric company that's local here. But when I first started, I was kind of getting my foot in the door and stuff, and figuring there's a lot of like promotions and different routes I could go within where I work, and that's all I cared about. I'm like, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
The route I'm going to go is where I can have flexibility, where I can like walk out the door and not think about work, and like be able to like leave, not have to worry about like different things like not getting done, like because my life outside of work is way more important than my life in work. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel very, very lucky right now with my job. If I'm gonna work, I've got a great job. So because I have 4 10s, which that was a huge goal of mine to have like 3 day weekends, and you can cram so much more into 3 days than you can two. And
Mm-hmm.
I've got great like personal leave and stuff. And pretty much when I first started working is like I would just save up like all my personal leave, and I'm like I will come to work sick. I will like come to work when I don't feel like it. Like I will save errands for like after work. Like I will never like use time outside of work unless it's doing something fun. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have that mindset, which helps me be able to get out a little more for sure.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and even to have that at like a young age too. I'm only 30. I'm not much older, but um, I just know so many people into their 40s and 50s and so on who are like saying exactly what I said, like, oh my gosh, you get to go and do all these things. It looks like so much fun. And I'm like, you too could do all of these things and could have so much fun if you just changed your life is what it is, right? I think
Yeah,
I talk about the concept of like a bucket list pretty often because I think it's a weird thing. I think bucket lists are weird because if you want to do something, why don't you go do it? Why are
yeah,
you putting it? Why are you putting it on a list and like saving it for eventually, or because who knows when, right? And I always say like if it takes maybe it costs too much, so like get an extra job and make a little bit more money, or cut somewhere where you can save more money. Or if you don't have enough PTO, like get a different job where you get offered some PTO that you can go and do these things. And I just think so many people make so many excuses instead of actually going and doing the things that they want to do. So I think that's really cool that you have that mindset where you kind of figured out early on, like I'm gonna work my way around this where I can still get to do the things that I
yeah.
want to
I
do.
just think like people really get like stuck with where they're at too, where it's like hard to make those changes. So it's like
Hmm.
I think like right out of the gate, I'm really glad that I was just very strict of like I'm not going to sacrifice like what makes me happy in life and like what
Yeah.
actually fuels me because we only get like one life and like right now I'm like young, so I want to like make sure I'm like taking advantage of all the opportunities I can now,
Hmm.
because that's what keeps me going, that what makes me happy, and work is never going to like sustain any sort of passion for me. I could care less, so
Yep.
I just want to be outside.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. And I do think it's really cool to have something that what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm thinking of, it's not coming out, but to have something that like fuels your fire in that way, because also some people don't have that, right? So that's why they want to pour into their work and they want to work 40 plus hours a week because they don't have something outside of that. And that's okay too, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it is really cool to have, and because I know the like the mental health benefits of being in the outdoors, like hunting aside, there's so many benefits
Yeah.
to being in the outdoors. So to have something that fuels your fire in that way to where you're like, you know what, work is doing just enough to pay my bills and to pay for the things that I want to do. And
Mhm.
then you go and spend your time doing other things. I think that's really cool because, yeah, I don't believe that a lot of people our age, even, but especially older, even have something like that in their lives.
Yeah, yeah, it is really sad and stuff. But yeah, I feel really lucky that I feel like I have the passions that I do and the drive that I do and all that good stuff. So
Yeah, no, I think that's super cool. Well, cool. We're coming up on just about an hour here. I end all of my conversations. I can't speak today. I end all of my conversations asking my guests, what does wild strength mean to you? Or like what comes to mind when you think of wild strength? And it's just kind of like a play on the name of the podcast. So, Madison, what comes to mind when you think of wild strength, or what does that mean to you?
hmm, I would say kind of to loop it back into some of our previous conversations. I would, to me, that would mean, you know, getting out of your comfort zone and just like being like strong enough to go out and do the things that you really like to do, and
Mhm.
just making it happen. You know, not using excuses, finding a way and stuff, and fueling that fire. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, heck yeah, I love that. If anyone has questions or if they want to reach out to you, follow you, whatever, where can they find you?
I'm pretty much just on Instagram. I think if you just typed in Madison Horner, it'd probably pop up, but I don't even know what my handle is. It has a lot of Y's after Maddie, so I don't know if you'd want to look that way.
I'll link it in there. Well, cool. Thank you so much for coming on, and that was a good conversation.